It's a live and direct session here on 91.3 WYEP. I'm Rosemary. Wood Brothers are kind enough to be here with us today. The new album is called Paradise. They're playing Mr. Small's Theater tonight. And in just looking back, it looks like it's a 10-year anniversary from the first time you guys released an album, right?
That's about right. I think this is our 10th year.
Did I do anything special this year in honor of that, or was that one of those things you just kind of hit you and said, "Oh, wow, a decade"?
Yeah, it snuck up on us.
Yeah.
We didn't plan anything.
Yeah, we got a 12-pack of donuts and had at it.
That's the way to go.
It's called a dozen.
The new album is called Paradise, and if you look at it, is it a mule on the front? It's a mule?
That's right.
Okay, so there's a mule, and there's a carrot hanging out in front of the mule, and I'm looking at that space between, because mostly when you're talking about Paradise, what you're dealing with is that space between the end of the mule's nose and the carrot. So why that title? Because in what I was reading on your website, it seems like you put some thought into why you named it Paradise.
Well, the image obviously is kind of ironic next to the title Paradise, but I guess there's a lot of songs that are about longing, about what you think you want, and it always seems to be out there, like the carrot. It's always out there in front somewhere, and you never quite get there. So that's like, I guess it's just asking the question, what is paradise? And what we need, is it what we want? I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I think a lot of the songs on the album seem to have this common thread, like Chris was saying, where they dealt with longing and desire, and maybe the evils of desire versus, well, desire is also our fuel. It keeps us going. It inspires us, or it drives us sometimes. So it's a double-edged and
Makes us write songs.
Yeah.
Well, I was taking a look at some of the songs in this record and looking at where you've been before this album. And, before this, you had done a studio album where it was mostly standing around a mic. When this one, it's described as being an evolution for the band and the family. Now, those are two different things, or maybe they're not. Tegan and Sarah were here on Saturday, and they sisters who've worked together forever, and their response when asked, do you separate family and band? They said, no, band, family, it's the same thing. Is that the situation with you?
Yeah, I mean, bands become families, really. Not only the band itself, but the crew that works with us. We all sort of become a family, and we're always traveling and bonding together and through thick and thin. And in this case, family became band as well, which makes it even more special, I think, for Chris and me, certainly, to have, it is to be able to do the same work and sort of have this little mini enterprise, which is a creative one at that, is pretty special.
We also, this is the first record we made since we all lived in Nashville, and it's also the first record that we produced collectively. So it was very much a band project. And then because we lived in Nashville, finally, we all wrote the songs in the same room together for the first time, from nothing to a finished song. So it was, in that sense, another evolution of the band, of us really working together as a band.
Does that make a big impact on what you ended up doing?
Yeah, I think it does. I think any successful band is creatively successful band. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and if you can work together in a good way, you take advantage of everyone's strengths. And so I think we discovered all of our strengths, and of course you get to discover your own weaknesses along the way while we self-produced our own record. And that's a hard thing to do. Like, I don't think people who haven't done that before maybe can understand how difficult that is, all the decisions you have to make. And that's why some bands get in these terrible fights over creative decisions. And so the fact that we could pull that off, get along great, and come up with something that we were proud of was a milestone.
So I should point out here, Chris, you've been part of Medeski, Martin & Wood. And Oliver, I know that you've done lots of work, including touring for years with Tinsley Ellis. And we also have to mention that there is a third, shall we say, adopted brother here?
Absolutely. This is our spiritual brother, Jono Ricks.
So we had to make sure that Jono, you're also part of the whole writing process as well.
Yeah, it's become more collaborative over the years.
But the boys, I mean, they've been together forever. They know each other. Ever any trouble for you, like wedging in there and saying, "Don't forget about me"?
No, actually. Well, it not in an overall creative like writing or musical ideas. They're totally. It's been cool. Actually, since I joined with them, I'm always just like, maybe I'll do this thing. It's kind of weird. Like I showed up to the first gig, I think, just with the shitar, right?
Yeah.
And
Carnegie Hall.
at Carnegie Hall, and they're like, "Oh, cool, yeah, let's just use that." I was like, "Oh, really? I can do that?" Because I don't know, I'd been playing in other situations for so many years where I just couldn't do my thing. So they're really open. It's nice.
Well, let's get back a little bit to family. I was doing a little reading and discovered that Mr. Wood, Dad Wood, he's a molecular biologist, Harvard educated. And I think he was probably a big impetus in getting involved with music. But what was his reaction whenever this is like career now? Was there any concern about that?
Well, I think he was the type of guy who he was very serious about music as a younger man, and I think easily could have become a professional musician and chose this other route. And so I think for the most part, he gets a lot of vicarious satisfaction out of what we do. So I think for the most part, it's a positive thing. I'm sure he worried, but at the same time, he's like, yeah, I never got to do that. You guys do it, So that's the way it feels.
If you've just tuned in, the Wood Brothers have a new album out. It is called Paradise, and they're playing Mr. Small's Theater tonight. So it's going to be, I would say, a pretty rousing evening and a great way to forget your worries and enjoy yourself. And we're going to ask you for a couple more tunes here on WYEP.